Get smart with your spending with Nucenda's Breeze debit card. We've got your back by offering safe and easy access to your money. Never any hidden fees, just an account that makes sense. Download the Nucenda app to enroll in mobile and internet banking, managing your funds, making person-to-person transfers, and rounding up purchases to save. Visit Nucenda.org to explore Breeze accounts and join our credit union.
New members must be eligible for membership. Equal opportunity lender. Insured by NCUA.
Good day, folks, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Santa Fe Public Schools podcast. I am Joe Abeta, and today I am coming to you live from Santa Fe High's theater program with theater director, theater teacher.
Yeah, that's right.
Reed Mashevsky. How you doing today, Reed?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. We've worked together in the past.
Yes, we have.
Prior to my joining the district, and we have a lot in common as far as our side stuff goes. We're both comic book collectors, long time since childhood. Also
golfers.
Yes, Star Wars too as well.
Yep, and vintage Star Wars.
Star Wars stuff. So it's a pleasure to be here in this capacity, to be able to have you on as a guest today.
Thanks, buddy. You too.
Yeah. So let's talk about it, man. I know I've covered a couple of your productions, and they're pretty incredible. I always when I come into your class too, there's always this sense of enthusiasm from the students. They just love being here. There's something to say about theater students, right?
Yeah, there's usually, especially with the upper level classes and even the lower level classes, the enthusiasm of students who have kind of come into the program with prior experience. They have a level of enthusiasm, and oftentimes that kind of catches on to the students who are kind of middle of the road. We don't sit. We at least try not to.
Yeah.
We don't do a tremendous amount of book work. We learn on our feet, and all of those things that the district talks about getting students engaged and getting students to be active in their learning. That's exactly what we do in the theater, both for class and for productions. We have to get up on our feet. We have to get it into our bodies and into our bones, and we have to have a deadline.
Do you have, do you have students, I'm sure you have all types, but do you see that the majority of them are the kids that know, hey, we know we're theater students when we're freshmen coming in, or are there more that come in saying, I don't know if I want to be a theater student, but I want to see how it is. I've seen stuff, and then are there some that are just like, well, I'm just here because there was no other electives to take, and maybe they make that transformation of like you've gone to like you didn't know if you wanted to take this to being passionate, and this is something you're going to continue after you graduate here.
It's a combination of all of those.
Okay.
As far as the number of students who come in knowing that they want to be an actor, I usually get 2, 3, 4 of those a year. Or people who have spent a lot of time on stage prior because of all of the opportunities in Santa Fe in various kind of educational doctrines. Students kind of latch on to different things. So those students are oftentimes, especially at the beginning of the year, incredibly important in getting the rest of the class kind of up and running because their enthusiasm and their inertia is really kind of what propels that. It's the middle 65, 70% that makes up a lot of my program. They're the students who have some interest but have never done it before. And they're the ones that oftentimes discover kind of who they are or may overcome a fear or some sort of fright that prevents them from speaking in public, which is the number one across the world, every culture, every language, every socioeconomic class. Public speaking is the number one fear.
Oh, yeah.
And so these students come in, and over the course of the year, they see the productions. They might participate in tech or building, and they grow as a young person in their confidence and their ability to take risks. And that's exciting to them. So that oftentimes it's those students who really keep the program going, and they work hand in hand with those ones that are really, really enthusiastic at the beginning of the year.
And they know what a perfect environment. It's a safe space to be able to public speak, fall down a little bit, work on whatever your weaknesses are for public speaking. And then, and it's a safe space. And then by then, when it is time to be in the real world out of the safe space, they feel confident enough to be able to to have some kind of public speaking.
Performing live is an experience that it doesn't matter if you go on and quote unquote do this for the rest of your life. The skills that you take, and it should be that with any program at a school. Students find their places. They find their spots where they are safe. And whether it's band or sports or theater or art or math, you want students to feel safe and to feel seen in some portion of their educational journey. And that's, this is what my room is, and this is what I'm tasked with. And we laugh. We have hard days. You cannot put on a play without having hard days. But at the end of it, I think that the relationships are incredibly strong and lifelong for those students who share them up on that stage, because they remember those experiences. They might not remember a lab or a test, but they remember what it was like to put the show that got that standing ovation and what was shared between them backstage and the safety that they felt with each other.
So is it different? And then also within those 4 years that you have them, they're trying to figure out what they want to do, right? Do they want to work behind the scenes? Do they want to be acting? Do they want to set design? Makeup, whatever it comes into a part that they want to specialize in, right? I mean, you give them a chance to be able to.
Oh, absolutely. And we have a number of students every year who will be auditioning for a various program because of, like I said, we have, NMSA or the classics or prep. There are so many, especially for a town this small, there are so many opportunities for students to pursue their interests. And so a lot of the students that I have that are incredibly interested in theater already are also here for the AP programs. And so I usually get, upon graduation, 2 or 3 every year that are interested in pursuing a theatrical career in some capacity, whether it's writing, performing. Sometimes it's a few more, sometimes it's a little less. And that's okay. I always say that the point of learning this craft is to just have a toolbox, and you just have all of these little tools in that toolbox so that on any given day you can pull something out that's going to help you get what you want, overcome anxiety about a project or a presentation, whatever it is. That these are just skills that you learn and that you add to your repertoire, whether it's for full-time performance or whether it's to go on and be a lawyer or a psychologist or whatever it is.
But just to have that experience of being able to say, hey, I knew how to do this because I learned this in my high school theater class, and we could do something like that, right? It always comes back to you, right?
And, you never hear people say to a high school football student, are you going to go off to the NFL? You might say, do you want to go off to the NFL? But sometimes people look at the arts as if a student doesn't go off and dedicate their life or suddenly become Scarlett Johansson, that somehow or another this experience is wasted. And that is no one ever says that about basketball or about football or and for the record, I love basketball and I love football. I love going to the games. But there's this weird thing that oftentimes people who don't have a personal experience with the arts will sometimes kind of delegitimize a young person's experiences with them, when in reality, just as any other experience, they should be celebrated and they should be supported. And the district does an incredible job supporting my program. They have always been, even before I was here, they were huge proponents. They give me a lot of leeway, and, they're just, so I can't complain about that. And I don't want it to sound like I am. The students' experience is what is so important. And for a lot of these students, coming to this room or coming to the art room is the reason they come to school. And that's what we want.
Yeah. And it should be that way. I mean, and you mentioned, that's the reason why they come to school. Same with athletes too. Could be the engineering program is the reason why they come to school, but it brings them back.
No,
right?
absolutely.
And keeps them interested.
And that's
too.
one of the great things about being in Santa Fe. And one of the reasons, I talk to friends of mine who are college directors, and they don't get the communal support that Santa Fe offers, both the district and the community. And that's one of the reasons it's so exciting to work in this town, is because there is such support for the arts and for young people's experiences in them.
And it's interesting you bring that up because, basketball is king here as far as sports go in the state of New Mexico, but especially here in northern New Mexico. There's something just unique and very special about basketball here. Growing up here, coming to being a Santa Fe High graduate, basketball. There's just something about it, right? There's something romantic about basketball. But you also bring up that in theater's also big here in the community of Santa Fe. So I'm going to ask about that. How is the community here? I mean, you just said they were very supportive and stuff, but how is it to have a theater program here in the city of Santa Fe? We're a small community. I say that in quotes, but there is a huge performance presence here in the city.
Well, I mean, I believe we still are. We're the third largest market in the country for visual arts.
Yeah.
You can literally feel it in the air, a sense of artistic and creative buzz.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that is incredibly exciting about being here. I love having my own little spot here.
Yeah.
I love the relationships that I've made with people in the community, with the students who have gone on. I feel very privileged to leave when I go out to travel or when I talk to friends of mine in New York or Chicago, that I have this spot where I'm trusted and by the district and by my admin to put on the shows that we put on. Some of them are silly. Some of them are middle of the road. Some of them are incredibly challenging. And the amount of freedom that we have in this room is, and also with the film program, what we study in our film studies classes, it's really a privilege, and it's not something that I take for granted, nor do I take lightly, because not a whole lot of high school teachers get kind of the opportunities that I have that I can then share with the students.
Yeah. Let's talk about your spot, because I know this theater has been here. Does the theater have a name?
It's Santa Fe High School Theater.
Okay.
There is no official name for the room itself. It's also my classroom.
Yeah.
Anyone who's been here knows that we are very small.
Yeah.
128 seats. So but yeah, just Santa Fe High School Theater.
How has it evolved? I know this theater's been here since I came here back and I graduated here from 1990. It's the same theater. I know that the building, though, has made some kind of transformation. I know I took my art class down a couple of doors down.
I didn't know that.
And then I took my, with Mr. Myers, Gary Myers. And then I also took my yearbook class. I don't remember my teacher's name, but she was amazing. I wish I would remember her name right now. It's just old age, not remembering her name myself. But this was the art building, right? What has, as far as, I guess, what kind of facilities do you have here? What would you, as far as, I've seen you guys have a ready room, I guess you would say.
We have the makeup room backstage. We have beautiful facilities, especially for high school, for quote unquote straight plays, which are non-musicals.
Yeah.
The stage is lovely. It's partial 3/4 thrust stage, meaning we kind of have audience on some of the sides of the stage, but not entirely.
Yeah.
128 seats. We have a full dance studio. We have full intercom system to our lobby and to our 2 dressing rooms, a full makeup room.
Was that all stuff that was here when you got here? Or did you put that all?
No, that's all been here. That was here as when I got here. I'm in my 15th year, and my predecessor.
Wow.
Yes, I cannot believe it's been 15 years. 15 years.
Okay.
And then my predecessor, Joey Chavez, who's a local legend and also Santa Fe High School graduate, and I took over for him. He had been here for 16 years.
Okay.
So the Santa Fe High School Theater has had, uninterrupted, except for one.
Yeah.
Essentially, we've had 2 teachers covering almost
30
32
years.
Yeah, 31 years.
That's incredible.
So, you ask about changes. Changes that they've been very, very incremental.
Yeah.
We put on 3 to 4 main stage shows a year. We have our fall show, our winter musical, which we just finished this past weekend, and we have our spring show, which is oftentimes referred to as the senior show. We're members of the International Thespian Society, so students accrue points, and when they get enough points, they're inducted into that society. It's an honors program, just like National Honor Society or things like that. And then for the senior show, the seniors that are inducted into Thespian Society, I pick a show to cater to them.
Okay.
So their last show, now that show will also then have auditions for underclassmen to be able to audition and get into parts. But then I pick a play that will really showcase those outgoing seniors and, as kind of their farewell.
Is that kind of the number one thing that you look for, is like when you're picking a play?
I don't, for that show, yes, because, I want those seniors, the people, if you've been inducted into Thespian, if you're still a senior, you've put in your dues, and you've paid your dues and put in the time. And I want them to just leave with that kind of final. Now, every show is different. I don't precast, quote unquote. You always want to make sure that you've got, I'm not going to do West Side Story when I've only got 2 guys in the program.
Gotcha.
That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, ain't going to happen.
So, but you're always looking at numbers, and so each show is kind of different. What do you want to accomplish with this show? Do we need to build the program, or have our last shows been a little bit too big? Now we're going to bring it back because costumes cost money, et cetera, et cetera. So, so each show is kind of different. You always have kind of a different objective with each one.
Is there a show that you always bring back every couple of years because you like it?
No, the only show I've ever repeated here was a production of Women in War, which is a play. The whole script are letters from women to their combat soldiers, going back to World War I.
Ah, okay.
And we did that as a one-act entry 12 or 13 years ago. And then when COVID hit, that was a really, really good show to do virtually. So on the screen, because the people don't really share the stage. It's much more kind of monologues. So that was the only show I've ever repeated here, I believe.
Okay. I remember a while back when Santa Fe University of Art and Design? Yep. They had a theater program there, and they were doing something on the Bataan Death March. People that lived here that were from Vegas mostly, but northern New Mexico, and they did something where they were they were playing the people that they were now, telling about their story of when they were in the Bataan Death March. It was pretty interesting. And that's interesting because right down the street, you were there when you were teaching here when was the university still open?
Oh yeah, the university. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And actually the gentleman who was the technical director for the Greer Garson and is now on Live Art Santa Fe trying to save the Greer.
Yeah.
That gentleman just helped us with our projections for Mean Girls, which is the musical. He was a QLab pro. So yeah, it's a nice, small little community.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I don't think a lot of people know or have been to the Greg Garson Theater and that facilities. It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And, there's some secrets on that campus that are just, I went on there. I used, working for the city at a time, I went and did a tour of all the stuff that was there. And looked at the building. It just looks really weird. Something out from like, The Walking Dead that people just got up and split.
I hope it can get saved. I want facilities. I want those buildings to go for people to live in.
Yeah.
I want that theater to be saved. I want those rehearsals. The bones are there, and it deserves to be used.
Yeah, even the studios too that they're making the movies in are pretty incredible. So
absolutely.
So Reed, tell me how'd you get involved in theater, film? What was your muse that got you into this? Or
I remember 1983. I still remember sitting on my mom's lap, and she had a brochure, a pamphlet for the summer activities things, put on through the Park and Recreation Department that various cities have. And she said, "You want to do drama?" And I said, "I don't know what that is." And she goes, "It's like putting on plays and acting in front of people." I said, "Sure, that sounds like fun." And I did it. And my first show was Hansel and Gretel, and I enjoyed that. And then that year on Nickelodeon, there was a Leonard Nimoy television show called Lights, Camera, Action, and it was behind the scenes of making of films.
I vaguely remember that. Okay.
And I started watching that, and it tripped a trigger in me somehow. And the next summer I did drama again, so this would have been 84. And I got the lead in some play. I was the bad guy in this play about spring. I was Old Man Winter. And that was my first. And that absolutely blew the lid off. The makeup and just the costumes, everything. I still remember it. And I was, I think, 8 or 9 years old.
Wow.
And I absolutely fell in love with it. There was never a day since that summer for the rest of my life where I knew that I wasn't going to get paid to be in theater.
Okay.
And so by the late 80s, I was starting to work with outside community. I didn't do as many shows in high school because I was getting paid to do Shakespeare shows during the summer I didn't get paid during the summer shows. But during the fall and winter, there were companies in town or in the towns over that I would be going to, and I would be either stage managing or acting in. And so that's when I also got introduced to Shakespeare, was during these summer shows. And so by the late 80s, early 90s, I already was getting money for putting on plays and going to grown-up rehearsals and things like that. And then in 10th or 11th grade, we had, in the early 90s, the competitive improv boom kind of hit, where every bar had, those improv troupes. And so I was, at the time, I don't know if it's still the case, I was the youngest person ever to be invited to perform on the main stage for Comedy Sports, which was the Green Bay chapter, which was a competitive improv group. And we would travel all over the state of Wisconsin. We would perform in Milwaukee with the Milwaukee group, went down to Chicago and started performing there. So that was kind of my high school job, was every Friday and Saturday and Sunday, I would be traveling all over the state and getting paid to go perform in front of colleges or bars or things like that in improv comedy. And I just kept doing it. Moved to Chicago in 1999, got my degree from Columbia, and was acting, doing a lot of voiceover work, tech work, and like I just said, I'm an actor, I'm a director, I do tech. I just want to be involved in the theater. And I've never just been, I just want to act, I just want to direct, I just want to do these things. It's just, I don't want to work in a cubicle. God bless cubicles. I would go nuts. And so that's how I I got involved. I've just been doing it literally my entire life.
And so then you found your way over here to Santa Fe?
Well, so how that happened was I was living in Chicago. This is after I had gotten my graduate degree from the National Theater Conservatory in Denver. And I was in Chicago. Yeah.
I was just going to say, Chicago, Second City still exists down there?
Oh, absolutely.
All that stuff.
How was good. That? Now, when I was in Chicago, and I can't speak to this anymore, I was told very early, because I kind of wanted to do some theater and I kind of wanted to do improv. And I was told, God rest his soul, Sheldon Patinkin was the head of the Columbia Theater Department at the time. And he was a founding member of Second City back when it was the Compass, even before it became Second City.
Gotcha.
So, and I was told pretty early in my time in Chicago, you either got to go the improv comedy route or the theater route.
Gotcha.
Kind of pick a lane. And that might have changed, but at the time, and it kind of was. So I stuck with the acting because I didn't have to pay for the classes.
Gotcha.
Other than college, but I could audition for companies and get cast.
Yeah.
They'd pay me.
Yeah.
So
how was the scene in Chicago?
Oh God, I miss Chicago. Now I'm 50 now, and I was 23, 24.
Yeah.
So being a young person who loves theater and loves, that youthful artistic exuberance where you don't care if you're not getting paid. You just want to work and create. And to be there in the late 90s, it was heavenly. I mean, it's some of the greatest years of my life. And then I unbelievably got into the National Theater Conservatory in Denver for my graduate degree, which had over 1,000 people auditioned the year I got in, and they accept 8. So, to be paid to get your graduate degree and to work with a Tony Award winning company and these incredible directors. And now, it was a really, really, my college and kind of early professional, young adult professional career. It was magical. I love it.
Yeah.
And so after I had gone back to Chicago, and at the time they were auditioning, it was the Goodman was auditioning for King Lear, and it was going to be directed by Robert Falls, who's a major director of straight plays and Broadway shows, and Stacy Keach was going to be King Lear, and every person on the planet was auditioning, and I just kept getting called back. And I had had a bunch of contracts that lined up. I was in the union by that point. And Actors Equity. And
Stacey Keach, he did an HBO series, didn't he?
Oh, I mean, he was, the Mickey Spillane.
Mickey Spillane, that's what it was. Okay.
And,
That's right. I remember that.
Very famously, he's the cop in the Cheech and Chong films.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
also,
That's right.
what's ironic is my mother saw Barnum, which he originated in D.C., and she said, she would oftentimes say, she goes, "You were wonderful. You were no Stacey Keach."
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I just like everybody,
Yeah.
I was auditioning for this role, and I kept getting called back.
Uh-huh.
And, like 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah.
And so I have, when you have a contract, there's what's called a drop dead date where you can back out of a union contract and it's not going to affect you negatively.
Yeah.
You're giving the other company enough time to find another actor.
Yeah.
And it's a professional courtesy. And my drop dead date for these contracts was before the casting announcement for Lear. So I called up the casting director, and you can't say, "Do I have a part?" because they haven't announced it yet.
Yeah.
So you've got to kind of do theater double talk. And I'm like, I'm going to give up these contracts for the potential to be in Lear.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a good idea? And he said, "I think that's a really good idea, Reed."
Oh, that's awesome.
So I did it. And I backed out, and then 10 days later, they announced the cast, and I did not get cast.
Oh my gosh!
And I found out afterwards, and I never got it 100% confirmed, but I found out that there was concern that I was going to be too tall. So whatever. So I had no.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'1" in the morning. So. Yeah, I was, needless to say, I was really bummed out, and I'd given up work, and, I had no work. So even if I got cast in a show that morning, I wasn't going to be on stage for another 9 months.
Yeah.
So I went back to.
Was that kind of a biggest, would you say, one of your moments, like kind of I had to get up and I got knocked down, but I had to get up moments,
Well, it certainly changed the trajectory of my life.
Okay.
It's probably the single. I've been very blessed with a lot of great things, and then there's a ton of stuff that you don't get that you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
So I went home. I'm originally from basically Green Bay, just south of Green Bay in Wisconsin, and I went home to visit my folks. And while I was there, our neighbor's kids were also there, and he was a assistant principal out in Fairfax, Virginia.
Mm-hmm. How old were you at that time, during this time?
34 or 35, somewhere in there.
Okay.
And I was just talking to them. And I said, "I got nothing." And he goes, "Would you be interested in teaching?" And I said, "Well, I've taught summer stuff or evening stuff for adults. I've never taught high school."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well," and literally the next morning, I get a call from a principal in Northern Virginia in Fairfax County at a place called Falls Church High School. And they're like, "We just lost our theater teacher. We start school in 2 weeks. Fly out.
Yeah.
We want to meet you." And so this teaching job fell in my lap with absolutely no effort on my own.
Wow.
And so I flew out.
Fate works that way, right?
I flew out. They said, "We'd love you." I said, "Cool, I'll be out in a couple of weeks." Because I figured I can at least, I'll be involved in theater.
Yeah.
And so I was there for like 3 years, and then when the economy hit, and suddenly budgets got very tight, I was kind of low man on the totem pole. So it didn't quite work. And I was stuck unemployed. And I was going, do I go back to acting, move back to Chicago? I don't, I've kind of got a 3-year dead spot, and I was just kind of getting into the swing of teaching. I really kind of like, I'm not very good at it yet, but there's enough little victories here and enough relationships with the kids where I think I'd like to do this. So the next year I would apply. I didn't leave my apartment until I applied for 3 positions. I mean, I was applying in Japan. I was applying, you name it. I was just trying to get, and it's still I think my single proudest professional accomplishment was getting a full-time theater teaching position in early 2010, in the middle of that economic, downfall. Mm-hmm. So I applied, I flew out here, met with Joey and Marilyn Barnes, the old choir teacher.
I remember.
And I applied and I got it and I moved out and I fell in love with it. And then a couple of years in, I meet my now wife and, So, and I was able to get a dog. So every once in a while, I miss getting up on stage. I haven't acted in forever.
Yeah.
But I also, that'll come. And so I really enjoy it here. I love it here. I built a family here with my wife. I'm now a grandpa.
Yeah. Wow.
So, things have changed all because of that one moment, that one part.
That's incredible. And now you've had a legacy of students, right, that have come back for the last 15 years, right?
I still talk to many of them, and it's so wonderful to see them. That is one nice thing about social media, where you can kind of follow them, and they go off and they create their own paths, and it's really wonderful. And we've had great days, we've had rough days, everything in between.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So, Reed, tell me a little bit about your film program. Do you guys are starting a film program here at Santa Fe High?
I have been teaching a dual credit class with the community college called Film Studies 1, which is an introductory film course where students, sophomores and up, can learn about the history of film as an art form.
Yeah.
And it would be like your basic intro to film history at a college class. And so you get to learn about silent films and the development of film noir and sound and color and aspect ratio and all of those things. And then we also have a secondary class called Advanced Film Studies, which is we watch more kind of challenging films. We look at a lot more kind of concepts on cinematography and mise en scène or female filmmakers or world filmmakers. And between these two classes, students who have a passion for film as an art form can come and learn about famous directors, famous genres, how film is constructed. And we've also this year joined the Film Prize New Mexico Junior competition, which is a student club where students can submit short films in various categories to this statewide youth filmmaking program, and that's also been really, really enjoyable. And we're about a week away from getting some submissions, and I can't wait to kind of see what they finally have come up with, because we've been working on these all year.
It's interesting with film now how it's so accessible. If you want to make something, you can make it with your phone.
Absolutely,
you could edit it with your phone, even though I would, you find creative ways of doing it. Right? I call it guerrilla filmmaking. It's a lot easier. I have my film degree from San Diego State, and I was started community college out there right at the beginning of the nonlinear editing, right? And then it wasn't really affordable at the beginning. It was like $25,000, $30,000 for a video card that could handle something like that. But now it's in the palm of someone's hand that they can do something like that. And we didn't have YouTube back then either to be able to present it to people, to be able to watch, or TikTok or whatever it may be. And students now, I noticed, even like with my daughter, she's a junior now in college, but she's doing these days in the lives, these little mini docs of herself, of her days and stuff. But kids now, with the guidance of taking classes like, the cinematography classes that you're offering, like film classes, that film appreciation, of pointing out the little nuances of directors, of Scorsese's point of view or Kubrick's point of view or whoever it may be. You add that stuff into it, it makes them think a little bit more than just picking up their phone and hitting record, but actually framing it to be, have some kind of a composition to it too as well. Yep. Which is very powerful if you think about it, right? I mean, compared to us where we had to get a tape, and, all
the cost of
so many
processing and all of that. Anyone can make a film. Anyone can make a film.
Yeah.
And you don't even need to have the rule of thirds and composition and all of those things. But if you've got that in your back pocket, again, tools in the toolbox.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting, Reed, with the story, your life story and stuff. It's great that the students have access to that, because it's not, if you really want something and you're passionate about it and you love it, something's going to happen. You're going to be in some kind of a pathway to doing something like that in life, because you tend to, you may make a choice where you think, well, I guess I'm just not going to be in this anymore. And then all of a sudden you're in the thick of it, and you just pinch yourself saying, wow, how did this happen? Right.
I always, my response, students will ask me, what's the point of this?
Yeah.
School.
Yeah.
and I say education, the point of you coming here and taking these classes, these math or science or theater, these things that you might, quote, never use again.
Yeah.
Unquote. That stuff is secondary.
Yeah.
The point of education is to take your knowledge and be able to apply it to your life and to make your life better.
Yeah.
That's what education is.
Yeah.
In whatever capacity, whatever field you get it from, if you can have that skill of taking what you know and applying it to a problem and hopefully solving that problem or making that problem easier to deal with, that's what our job is. And, you know, I think it's wonderful that anyone who does it and has the opportunity to do it with kids, I think it's the gift, you know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, thank you, Reed.
My pleasure. Thank you, Joe. It's always great to see you.
Yeah. Yeah, brother. Reed Mashevsky, the theater teacher and director here at Santa Fe High for the theater program, and hopefully film soon. We'll see. Yeah. So thanks again, folks. Thank you for joining us. Have a safe week. Have a great week. Adios.